Twin flame and trauma bond. Understanding the differences and navigating the journey. Welcome to this deep dive into one of the most misunderstood aspects of the twin flame journey, the connection between twin flames and trauma bonds. The twin flame journey, with all its spiritual intensity and emotional challenges, can often be confused with a trauma bond. Today, we're going to unpack this complex topic, explore the differences, and provide you with insights on how to navigate these deep emotional waters with clarity and wisdom. Understanding the twin flame connection. At its core, a twin flame connection is a profound spiritual bond. It's believed that twin flames are two halves of the same soul, split into two bodies, destined to meet and ignite each other's spiritual awakening. The intensity of this connection often feels otherworldly, like you've known this person for lifetimes, even if you've just met. This bond is meant to push both individuals towards their highest potential, breaking down old patterns and bringing light to their shadows. It's a connection rooted in unconditional love, personal growth, and spiritual evolution. However, the very intensity that characterizes a twin flame relationship can also lead to confusion, especially when the emotional turbulence of this bond mirrors the dynamics of a trauma bond. What is a trauma bond? A trauma bond, on the other hand, is a psychological response to an abusive relationship. It occurs when there is a powerful emotional attachment to a person who is emotionally or physically abusive. This bond is forged through cycles of intense emotional highs and lows, moments of affection, followed by periods of abuse and then reconciliation. The victim becomes addicted to the emotional roller coaster, often mistaking the intensity of these emotions for love. Trauma bonds can form in any type of relationship, romantic, familial, or even in friendships. The key elements of a trauma bond are the cycles of abuse and the psychological dependence that keeps a person tethered to their abuser, often rationalizing the abusive behavior as a form of love. Twin flames and trauma bonds. Why the confusion? Given that both twin flame relationships and trauma bonds are intense and emotionally charged, it's easy to see why people might confuse the two. Both can involve feelings of deep connection, emotional highs and lows, and a strong desire to be with the other person, even in the face of challenges. However, there are critical differences. 1. Purpose of the relationship. Twin flames are meant to help each other grow, heal, and ascend spiritually. The challenges in a twin flame relationship are often about breaking down the ego, healing past wounds, and stepping into your true self. The difficulties are there to push you toward spiritual awakening and unconditional love. A trauma bond, however, keeps you trapped in a cycle of pain and dysfunction. The purpose of a trauma bond is not growth, but rather survival within a toxic dynamic. Instead of healing, a trauma bond perpetuates emotional wounds, keeping both individuals stuck in a cycle of abuse. 2. Emotional dynamics. In a twin flame connection, the emotional intensity stems from spiritual growth and the shedding of old layers. Yes, it can be painful, but it's a pain that ultimately leads to healing and transformation. Both individuals, even when they are not together, are encouraged to become the best versions of themselves. In a trauma bond, the emotional intensity is rooted in fear, dependency, and the need for validation from the abuser. The pain in a trauma bond does not lead to growth. It leads to more pain, confusion, and self-doubt. 3. Resolution and healing. Twin flame relationships, though tumultuous, have the potential for resolution through inner work, self-love, and spiritual awakening. The connection often improves as both individuals grow and heal themselves. Trauma bonds, on the other hand, typically do not heal on their own. They often require intervention, therapy, and sometimes the painful decision to cut ties with the abuser. How to discern between a twin flame and a trauma bond. Given these differences, it's important to ask yourself some deep, introspective questions if you find yourself in a relationship that is intense and challenging. Here are some ways to discern whether you are in a twin flame connection or a trauma bond. 1. Examine the patterns. Is there a repetitive cycle of abuse followed by reconciliation? Trauma bonds often involve a cycle where the abuser is hurtful, then apologetic, leading to a temporary reconciliation before the cycle repeats. In a twin flame relationship, while there may be challenges, the dynamic isn't typically one of ongoing abuse, but rather of triggering old wounds for the purpose of healing. 2. Assess your growth. Are you growing and evolving as a person? Are you becoming more self-aware, more loving, and more aligned with your true self? A twin flame connection should push you towards growth and self-realization. In a trauma bond, growth is often stunted. You may find yourself stuck in old patterns, unable to move forward, and constantly doubting your self-worth. 3. Feel into the energy. Does the relationship ultimately bring you closer to love even if it's challenging? Twin flames, despite the difficulties, often bring a sense of higher purpose and deeper love into your life. A trauma bond, however, will often drain your energy, leaving you feeling empty, exhausted, and more disconnected from your true self. 4. Listen to your intuition. Deep down, you might already know the answer. Your intuition is a powerful guide. If something feels fundamentally wrong, if you feel like you're losing yourself in the relationship, it might be a trauma bond rather than a twin flame connection. Healing from a trauma bond. If you realize that you're in a trauma bond, the path to healing can be challenging, but it is possible. Here are some steps you can take. 1. Acknowledge the reality. The first step to healing is acknowledging that you are in a trauma bond. This can be difficult because it often involves admitting that someone you care about is abusive. 2. Seek support. Trauma bonds are hard to break alone. Reach out to friends, family, or a therapist who can provide support and guidance. 3. Focus on self-love. Rebuilding your self-worth is crucial. Engage in activities that nurture your soul. Practice self-compassion and remind yourself that you deserve to be treated with respect and love. 4. Set boundaries. Learn to set and enforce healthy boundaries. This might mean limiting contact with the person or, in some cases, cutting ties altogether. 5. Therapy and healing. Consider therapy, particularly modalities that address trauma, such as EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Healing from a trauma bond requires addressing the underlying trauma that created the bond in the first place, transforming a twin flame connection. If you're in a twin flame connection that feels challenging, remember that the difficulties are part of the spiritual process. Here are some ways to navigate this journey. 1. Embrace the healing process. Understand that the challenges are opportunities for growth. Lean into the discomfort and allow yourself to heal old wounds. 2. Work on yourself. The twin flame journey is as much about self-love and self-realization as it is about the other person. Focus on becoming the best version of yourself, independent of your twin flame. 3. Practice unconditional love. This doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior, but rather loving yourself and your twin flame without conditions or expectations. Love them for who they are, not who you want them to be. 4. Communicate openly. Honest and open communication is key. Express your feelings, listen to theirs, and work together to navigate the challenges. 5. Trust the journey. Trust that everything is happening for your highest good. The twin flame journey is a spiritual path, and even the difficulties are leading you towards your true purpose. Conclusion. Understanding the difference between a twin flame connection and a trauma bond is crucial for your spiritual and emotional well-being. While both can feel intense, they serve very different purposes in your life. A twin flame connection is about growth, healing, and unconditional love, whereas a trauma bond keeps you trapped in a cycle of pain and dysfunction. By discerning between the two, you can make empowered choices that lead you towards healing, love, and spiritual fulfillment. Whether you're navigating the highs and lows of a twin flame relationship or breaking free from a trauma bond, remember that you are worthy of love, respect, and happiness. Thank you for joining me in this exploration. I hope this has brought you clarity and guidance on your journey. Stay tuned for more insights, and remember, you are never alone.